Right, everybody, welcome to this webinar on this Friday. I'm not sure whether it's afternoon, morning, or evening where you are, but welcome. My name is Vic van Vuren. I'm the director of the ILO Enterprises Department, and my colleagues, Simel Essem and her team are on board. And thank you to all those who've helped arrange this webinar, and thank you especially to our guest speakers who have joined us today. As we talk, and in parts of Europe where I am, it seems to have been easing off a bit with this COVID-19. But when I just look across to the developing economies and I see the huge numbers of daily increasing infections of this COVID virus, we realize that our task is only just starting on the work that we need to do to assist, particularly cooperatives and the social enterprises in the reactivation, in the recovery phase as we move ahead. I'm very glad to introduce our four speakers now, and I'll go to the next slide. And we have with us, if we can go to the next slide, please, Mina. Sorry, I'm just waiting a moment.
Is it coming?
Okay.
Okay.
Is it not working on your side? Our first speaker is going to be Sonia Diaz, and welcome to Sonia, the Waste Specialist Woman in Informal Employment representative on globalizing and organizing from WEGO in Brazil. Our next speaker will be Dirk van Sintjan, President of European Federation of Renewable Energy and Cooperatives, COOP, in Belgium. And then Noel Gaboy, the President and CEO of Climbs Life and General Insurance Cooperative in the Philippines. And lastly, Mustafa Kamal Guyer, the Manager of the Green Jobs Program in the ILO. So welcome to all of you, and thank you for joining us. We look forward to the next 90 minutes to engage with you and to see what we can learn from what you're doing. And then we'll have some time for question and answers. The interpretation services are available. You need to be able to follow that by clicking on the relevant buttons into Spanish and French. And then we'll have the questions that you can ask, but on the side column where I can pick them up, and then I'll direct them to the panelists so that we get an even spread of questions to the different panelists to get their input. So thank you once again for joining. And we're going to take this slide off the screen now, and we're going to ask Sonia to take the floor. And Sonia, and each of the first three presentations will be 15 minutes each, and then the last one will be 10 minutes. So,
Vic, we want to put the video.
Oh, sorry, I'm jumping the gun. Before I go to Sonia, thank you, Samel. We need to go to a video clip of 2 minutes, and then I'll hand over to you, Sonia. Sorry for that. Okay, Mina, over to you for the video.
Yes.
We live in a moment when the pandemic reminds us of the interconnectedness of human health, environment, and the economy. When climate change is undermining the advancement of social justice and peace, posing an existential danger to the future of all life. To build back better and prevent future crises, we need a green recovery and a just transition to low carbon and more resilient economies. Cooperatives are stepping up as a critical social and economic force in climate change adaptation and mitigation. Established cooperatives are innovating, transforming their infrastructure, how they deliver services, their production methods and technologies. A new generation of cooperatives are leading the transition to community-owned renewable energy, developing circular economy models and repairing damaged ecosystems. But given the disastrous impact and urgency of this crisis, we all need to do more. Cooperatives are a global movement. Over 1 billion members, and their collective work can be significant. This is the moment for cooperatives all around the world and across all sectors to step up, scale up climate action. Co-ops for climate action toward a greener and better future for the planet, for the people, and prosperity for all.
Right, thank you for that video, Mina. As you can see, the celebration on Cooperatives Day is coming at a time when we need to look at both people and planet. And I think that's the focus of what we're going to be talking on. And the one cannot go without the other. We need to get rid of the fallacies that if you look at green, people will suffer. People will benefit from us looking after green. And my experience in the last few years in the ILO has seen that cooperatives have such a vital role to play, and one that we need to advance in the years to come. So Sonia, we'd like to hear from you. You've got the floor, and then we'll move on from there.
Good afternoon. Let me just try to add this to slide mode. Okay. So good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. Yeah. It's such a pleasure to be here. It's an honor, actually, because not only for to share the floor with such a distinguished panel, but also because cooperatives is such a dear theme to my heart. My overall objective today in this discussion is to show how cooperatives are crucial to solid waste urban systems and to climate change action, and also to furthering the decent work agenda, especially now in the context of COVID-19. And we cannot build resilience in the solid waste management sector without acknowledging the key role waste pickers cooperatives play. But first, I want to quickly introduce you to Women in Informal Employment, Globalizing and Organizing, WIGO. We are a global action, research, and policy network that seeks to improve the status of the working poor, especially women, in the informal economy. And we are a network of networks that connects membership-based organizations of informal workers locally, regionally, and internationally. And we know that informal workers are workers who lack legal and social protection. And we work with multiple occupational groups, which include home-based workers, domestic workers, street vendors, and waste pickers. We also know that the global estimates state that 61% of the global workforce is informal. And in developing countries, 69% of the urban workforce is informal. So informal workers are the majority of workers in the world today. And I'm going to speak about waste pickers cooperatives. I am a garbologist working with waste picker co-ops since the mid-1980s. So let us first see what are the waste pickers. Waste pickers are those workers that collect, sort, and or process household or commercial or even industrial wastes on the streets, on cooperative recycling facilities, or in open dump. According to the ILO Green Jobs report, they comprise around 20 million worldwide. They can be independent, non-organized, or they can organize themselves into cooperatives, associations, unions. They can work individually or as family units. And in my continent, Latin America, we have the strongest movement of waste pickers cooperatives in Brazil, my country, Colombia, and Argentina. So one of the ways to increase waste pickers' visibility and validity has been to highlight their economic and environmental contributions through recycling. 2013 ILO study pointed out that 20 million people earn their living from recycling waste in developing countries. And in addition, we know that recycling is one of the cheapest and fastest ways to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So waste pickers provide invaluable contributions as environmental agents in the reduction of greenhouse gases, by diverting materials from the waste stream and sustaining the recycling industry, in the creation of green jobs, as they provide, this waste pickers provides crucial income, the activity provides crucial income for people. In the promotion of public health and sanitation, because through their work, waste pickers make cities more clean, healthy, and beautiful. And in fact, some studies like the GIZ and CWG study says that waste pickers subsidize municipalities without recognition. So in spite of such contributions, waste pickers face many risks, and they face many threats. We have micro trends related to technological changes, waste to energy technologies, and new disposal systems that threaten their livelihoods, because in this concept of modernization of solid waste, very often cities go to capital-intensive technologies, and they face threats related to privatization of solid waste management, the displacement from the dump sites without consultation and without inclusion of waste pickers. And they face social and political barriers such as stigmatization and discrimination, abuse, intimidation, and harassment from the middlemen, from the industry, from public authorities. They face constant risks to their health and safety, and they are at the bottom of the pyramid with low earnings and lack of bargaining power. And in addition to that, we need to consider the occupational health impacts derived from climate and non-climate factors as a great concern for the livelihoods of informal workers. And waste pickers have been affected by dehydration, floods, heat stress, both at sorting centers, dumps, or in the streets. And addressing occupation and health issues should be a primary concern in climate change mitigation plans. And in this current pandemic, waste pickers are facing an extra layer of vulnerability. So, aware of the importance of a baseline for the impacts of COVID-19, we go in a local partner, ABPEC. We carried out a study comprised of a news tracking and a Google survey in 150 cooperatives in 21 states in Brazil to identify the impacts of this pandemic in the segregation at source collection schemes, and also the social-economic and health impacts. And I will just highlight some of the key findings. The complete study is available at WIGO website, and it is launched today. to celebrate the International Day of Cooperatives. So a few highlights. Cooperatives, we found out that cooperatives here in Brazil mobilized early to protect their members, and they adapted to new working conditions to stop the pandemic, in spite of the fact that they are uniquely vulnerable to the virus in sorting sheds and in the streets. And they were very quick to mobilize governments and civil society for COVID-19 related responses. We found out that municipalities, subnational governments, and the private sector, NGOs, and cooperatives joined forces in some cases and provided support to collectors. And the most common form of support was food baskets, followed by emergency basic income and fundraising campaigns. We found out that the decline in value per kilo of each type of recyclable material is more than 20%, which is a huge financial blow to cooperatives of recyclable waste collectors and threatens their sustainability. We found out that 40% of the cooperatives which participated in the survey stated that they were aware of cases of mental suffering due to the effects of COVID-19, especially stress and anxiety. And 54% of waste speakers are women and cooperatives, and we heard reports of cases of intimate partner violence during the pandemic associated with increased alcohol and drug consumption. So cooperatives are a pathway to dignified work and to fighting climate change because they enhance channels for social and political dialogue. They contribute to mitigation of risky working conditions. They facilitate contract provisions, social protection schemes. And in my country, Brazil, cooperatives have provided a path for organizing, for mobilizing, and for formalizing waste speakers. So they are frontliners in climate change actions and in fighting pandemics. And the contribution of cooperatives to waste management and to climate change actions could be increased by implementation or expansion of municipal segregation and source schemes, and also by the recognition that informal recyclers are essential service providers. This would imply the recognition of their work as essential work and would imply supporting cooperatives with infrastructure, with collective and personal protection equipments and capacity building. And I want us then to rethink resilience and think resilience in terms of bouncing forward, not backwards, because we cannot go back to the state that we were before. And to conclude, I want to leave an agenda for inclusion. I think we need to acknowledge the rights of waste speakers to work and to access waste as a livelihood resource. We need to design gender-responsive solid waste management systems to include waste speakers as service providers. We need to internalize and to implement this idea that any change to the way solid waste is managed, whether upgrading from dumps, from open dumps to controlled or sanitary landfills, whether it's introduction of recycling schemes or any modernization scheme, must begin with a plan that considers the needs of informal workers. We need to create an enabling environment and support cooperative formation and provide adequate infrastructure, capacity building, and social protection. And we need to really acknowledge that waste speakers are essential service providers and involve waste speakers as equal partners in planning and implementation of solid waste management systems. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sonia, and thank you for your very good presentation and also the time that you've kept. Much appreciated. But most of all, thank you for the content that you've shared with us. You know, this year is the 100th birthday of the cooperative unit within the ILO, and it shows you how far back the history we have of working with the cooperative movement. And we are certainly enjoying working with the different organizations, in particular WEGO and those who are presenting today. And if we had the opportunity to have a face-to-face meeting, we'd have a big birthday cake with 100 candles on there to celebrate. But we'll do that in a virtual way as we go through the meeting. So congratulations to Simel and all her previous heads of the cooperative movement within the cooperative unit of the ILO. So thank you, and we now move on to Dirk. Thank you, Dirk, for being with us, and you've already shared your opening slide with us. Your 15 minutes starts now. Thank you.
Good day to all of you, wherever you are. Thanks for having me as a speaker. I'm from the European Federation of Citizen Energy Cooperatives. It's not a very old federation. We were created at the end of 2013. And we now represent about a little bit less than half of the existing energy cooperatives around Europe. So there are about 3,400, we think. And our federation now unites 1,500 of them, about 1 million citizens. We have 9 employees. We have a board of 8 cooperatives. We have individual members and federation and associated members. So we are, since 3 years, I think, we are recognized as a new sector in the European branch of the ICA, the International Cooperative Alliance, Cooperatives Europe. And so that's, we are one of the sectors now of Cooperatives Europe. So if you go to our website, there is a map where we call it community energy projects, because it's not all cooperatives, where they can put themselves on the map. Luckily, they didn't do, not everyone did it, but this already shows a certain tendency. It's more something of Northwestern Europe than of Southern Europe, and especially it's more something of Northwestern Europe than of Eastern Europe. There are historical reasons for this. It has also something to do with legal frameworks and support mechanisms. And that's what our federation is trying to do something about. We want to spread the model across Europe. So we have federations, we have individual members and associate members. This is our team, all young people. I think you get the presentation. If you want to come into contact with us, that is possible. And the board from 8 different countries. We're not alone as energy cooperatives. In Brussels, the Brussels bubble, as we call it, we have coalitions. We work together in the Community Power Coalition, where we meet and cooperate with environmental organizations like Can Europe, Greenpeace Europe, Friends of the Earth Europe, but also networks of cities and municipalities that are engaging in the fight against climate change and the energy transition, like ICLE, Climate Alliance, and Energy Cities, but also other cooperative sectors like Housing Europe are present there as well, ERF and some others. I told you we are a new sector organization, Cooperatives Europe. We're also part of the Coalition for Energy Savings, Bridge, and Small is Beautiful campaign. What is the main driver for citizens to engage? And in contrast with the previous speaker, most of the cooperatives that are a member of our federation work with volunteers. So it's citizens investing in the energy transition, in energy efficiency, in renewable energy. And actually, the main driver is not a return on investment, but the main driver is, I want to do something against climate change. I want to play a role in the energy transition to low carbon, renewable energy. So that's the main driver. So people come together and they start acting. So our federation, we advocate for an enabling framework in all EU member states, so that all across Europe, citizens can have the same opportunities, can do the same. And we showed a lot of people over the past years to a good practice. Scotland has an interesting support mechanism. It's financial, it's technical. Someone has to close his microphone. So the Keras scheme in Scotland is an example, and we have been advocating or lobbying, you could say, for when Europe revised its directives, and they called it the Clean Energy for All Europeans. So this revision of these important directives to the member states on energy, this was an opportunity to put ourselves on the map of the European Union, of the European Commission. So, and this is what we got in two different directives, one on electricity, one on renewable energy. We got definitions. And so finally, all these initiatives across Europe, they got a definition. And in countries where we are absent, citizens will now have soon, when these new directives are implemented, transposed and implemented in all member states, citizens will have certain rights to do things, to be active on the energy market privately, but also collectively in what they call energy communities. Why is it not cooperatives? Because some of our members are not legally cooperatives. They might be associations, trusts, not-for-profit organizations. So, but when you look at the definitions, we won't do it now, you will see that we were able to put in most of the 7 cooperative principles in these definitions. So, to help member states, especially those where we are not present and who don't know the concept of an energy cooperative, we just published a transposition guidance document. It's 100 pages to help people from the administration who have to transpose the new directives in their own legal framework, so that we help them, we give advice how it can be done and what are good examples, what other countries are doing. So to give them an overview of what is happening across Europe. So, of course, now COVID-19 came at a very unpleasant moment for everyone, but also for this. Europe was on the brink of this Green New Deal. They swear to continue, but the problem might be that a lot of money that was meant to fight climate change and to help the energy transition, that it now will be directed to the old industry to save it, to airplane companies and so on. So, but nevertheless, we continue our work in Brussels. We represent our members. I recently wrote an article in which we state that well, the economy of the future should be an economy where local communities are stronger, where local economy is revived. We have to find a new balance between local economy and globalization, and the energy transition is a key moment in this transition. And the key is that we must keep the profits as local as possible in the hands of citizens and communities. We participate in several projects where we build tools and services. So Europe offers a lot of opportunities for research and tryouts. And in this Interact project, we are teaming up with farmers, because farmers, they have land, they have buildings, they have tools, they have tractors, they have biomass, and they can they can connect again with their neighbors through renewable energy. It's a very interesting project, but we have a whole bunch of projects where we participate and where we forge tools for our members so that they can play a role in the energy transition of the future. For the Commission, we also have a service contract. We run with 2 other organizations, the Clean Energy for EU Island Secretariat, where we help the many islands of Europe. Sometimes they're very far from Europe, where we help them in the energy transition. And we also are a candidate to be part of the Energy Poverty Secretariat, because we see that many of our members, they engage in the fight against energy poverty. We should leave no one behind. That's what everyone says, but we really mean it. So we are quite present. And last year we were present in more than 100 events. So sometimes the Commission thinks we have more than 100 people working for us, and we're only 8. And so we are close to our members. Sometimes we are very far. For the first time, I participated in a conference in Africa. For the first time, I was in Africa last year in Kigali, in the ICA conference for Cooperatives for Development. And we advocate for what we do, and we're all against 2,000 other lobbyists, but we have an ethical story, and the ethical story is welcomed in Brussels. That's what we found. So I'm at the end of my presentation. Next year, we hope to meet physically once more with our members. We will do it in Copenhagen, and the offshore wind farm here you see is half owned by the cooperative of the citizens of Copenhagen, and the other half is owned by the public utility of Copenhagen. So this is an iconic picture. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dirk, for that excellent presentation. And so we've had 2 very good inputs from different parts of the world, 2 different organizations. Just remember that there's at the bottom of your screen, there will be a question and answers column. We've already got 1 question for Sonia and 1 for Dirk in there. I will give you time later on to answer them verbally, but if there is a question that just requires a typing in a comment, then you can do so. Then we'll just stick to the other questions that need a verbal response. We now move on to Noel, who's in a different part of the world. So thank you, Noel, for joining us. And in your side of the world, it's in the afternoon, I presume, or early evening. So the floor is yours for 15 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Vic. Good evening to all from the Philippines. Thank you for the whole team of ILO for having me here. It's a great privilege for Climbs to be part to share a stage with this 100 years of the cooperative. And good evening also to our fellow strong cooperative leaders in the Philippines. It's a great privilege of presenting also the Weather Index program that we have way back in 2011. If you look into the Philippines, the Philippines is within the area of the Pacific that as Climbs also, we are situated at the southern part in the Philippines, and we have also some subsidiaries to share with you. We also with General Agency Insurance. We have also a pre-need company. We have also an investment company, because we have a lot of co-op resources that we want to help them to manage, and we have also some printing press. We have also a college, a Climbs Institute of Management that soon to be. We will in place that as a cooperative college in the long run, and we have a real estate and advisory corporation. As Climbs Insurance, Climbs stands before as a Climbs Life and Mutual Benefit Insurance. services way back in 1971. So we are a 48-year-old organization. And as of now, for the past 2 years, we were awarded as the
Sorry,
number one.
It's Vic coming in here. Some of the participants saying they can't read your slides. Is there any way of making them bigger on the screen?
Okay.
So maybe we, yeah, exit show and
No, it's okay. I think show me. Okay.
Oh, there we go. That's much better.
Oh, how about that one? It's okay?
Yes, that's much
That's
better.
good?
Yes.
Okay. So we started our cooperative in 1971 by the passion of our great leaders in setting up a cooperative mutual or a insurance for the poorest of the poor, because at the time in 1971, insurance is going to the grassroots is very difficult. So started here in Mindanao, and then right now we are into our as the number one micro insurance awarded, being published by our insurance regulator. Our track record is at present we have 4.1 million lives insured in the Philippines, penetrating only around 2,000 plus cooperative active co-ops. But in our database, we have around 4,000 co-op members. Then we always practice democratic control and the basic principles of the cooperatives. And in an average insurance coverage of $1,000 or around 50,000 pesos. For the last 4 years, we generated a gross premium of 134.7 million, and we pay claims for the last 4 years also of 67.9 million. So it means business within our social enterprise is good. Doing insurance to the grassroots is quite promising. So what is important? Why it is important to address climate action? In order also helping to achieve this sustainable development goal. We have this experience in the Philippines because we are in the ring of fire. So some of you already visited us. Most us here, we have 20 typhoons in a year. So the situation in the Philippines, looking to that map, the temperature is around 27 degrees, and big losses. The challenges now is big losses, especially to the agri-sector and value chain, sustainable and resilient organization. In fact, our insurance cooperative, our insurance for the agriculture and even on fisheries, it's only the government insurance or a government GOCC or own corporations who provide insurance protection. But there's a lot of challenges within that coverage. And looking to that, you can search that in the website, and among the deadliest and the cost lists in typhoon that visited here, and most of that comes from the months of September to December. So that's how we experience in the Philippines. So with that, there was a partnership before. Aside from the typhoons, we have a lot of threats in the Philippines. Now we have the volcanic eruption, especially the latest one is the Taal volcano. We have also the Mount Pinatubo way back in 1991 that killed around 640 lives and affected more than 1 million of households. An earthquake also. So to name the latest is we have this in the part of Mindanao, the southern part of Mindanao. And then, so way back in 2011, considering the clamor of our cooperative members, since they have a portfolio for the agri-insurance, we passed with a weather protect insurance. We tried the weather index catastrophic protection policy under property credit insurance coverage. So with this, the insurance is against excess wind speed and excess rainfall based on the per millimeter per 24 hours. So payout for the affected municipality, the annual insurance is around 100% of the covered loan. So for example, if the co-ops will enroll the total agri-loan portfolio, so that 100% will be covered. So this is around a meso level. Then of this insurance, the parametric insurance, we partner also with a technology-based, the DHI. And then that is the third party that will determine among the municipalities, because they divided, or we cover policy based on per municipalities across the archipelago. So if you look into that color, the yellow, the orange, and the red, that trigger comes from the from satellite. So an example for that, of that satellite, the Washi or Sendong, sets excessive rainfall triggers in 118 municipalities. So with that 118 municipalities, so the triggers looks like this. If there is a yellow category, so we pay out only 5% of the accrued loan per municipality. So if it happens within a year 5 times, so we pay also 5 times of the 5%. And then that if the according to the satellite, if that is orange, then we pay 10%, and accordingly, if that is red, that is a yellow means 10 to 15th year the happenings, and then orange means 15 to 20 years that will occur, or red, that is more than 20 years. So like what happened in Haiyan, so that is 100 years or more than 20 years. So supposed to be the trigger will pays around 20%. So the payment is very simple, and I think this is very relevant now, considering also that we are into the COVID situation, that going to the underwriting, the agri insurance is very difficult because you have some limited mobility due to some restrictions. So the trigger is once it will appear in the satellite that the municipality being insured has the following color. So like that. So schedule of coverage, like if you have a 1 million within Cebu City, so if the color is around orange or yellow, orange or red, then payout of 20% of the 35 of the 1 million coverage. So that's how advanced in technology to determine. Unlike with a traditional one, that you have to go to the area and to determine what will be the losses, the determination of losses. So looking in terms of payout, the experience that we had since 2011 to 2013, then there's only 11 co-ops who enrolled this program with a total coverage of around $1.4 million and a total premiums of $48.1 million. And we pay only 26.2 million, and reinsurance recovery is around 20. So looking that $20,000 dollars. So looking to the premium of 48,000 and then the claims of around 26 million, there's still hope that if we have this right, maybe we can continue. And what are the challenges on this? First is the determination of loss, because the determination of loss is based on a computer-based or satellite-based, and then there are some issues if the claims the trigger comes from that municipality. However, the losses on the next municipality which is not insured. And then another challenges also is, or lessons learned, we know that viable risk transfer mechanism. So no insurance company or cooperative that can stand alone of this kind of insurance, considering also the situation in the Philippines. So there's a really need a partner of reinsurance. Market acceptance, when we started this product, it's just a product push where the creation of the product was climbs was not consulted. So for sake of having this as an introductory to our cooperative movement, so that's maybe something that we have to look into on the research and development, the R&D, and then acceptance of the technology-based trigger. And however, there's a very positive that there's a strong interest of the agri-insurance within the Philippines. Then, moving ways forward, Climb's continuous engagement with other groups on climate risk insurance. In fact, we have some negotiations with some fintech, and then maybe with the help also of ICMIF. And we have also some partnership also with like ILO. We are also a recipient of the partnership. So we already have this disaster insurance. We call that as property emergency tragedy insurance in partnership with one primary co-ops here, and it's getting good. There's a positive feedback that savings will be protected in accordance to the issues of climate change. And some other considerations also is the data sharing among the government agencies that we have to consider. And we are very optimistic, no? Continue lobby support of our private and public groups that public. So currently there is a limited access of relevant data as of now. Then on the financial literacy and risk management, important role of education. It teaches business continuity planning in all stages of sustainability and to strengthen resilience and adaptive capacity of cooperatives through the Climbs Institute of Management. And soon to be, hope that our leaders will go into the cooperative college in the Philippines. So that is formerly the CIFL, addressing Sustainable Development Goals number 4, education, and SGD number 11, the sustainable cities and communities. So right now, the financial literacy through product awareness and protection, forge strong partnership with other organizations like LGUs and other non-government organizations or the most vulnerable sectors. We have also some impact insurance projects in the Philippines with the ILO Social Finance Program. So right now, we have this community action response to emergency services, the Climbs Cares, that provides safe and clean water, potable water. We bought our fire truck because in the cooperative here in the Philippines, since we are not taxable, 3% of our net surplus must go back to the community. So that's where we will invest. We invested also to the community, especially the most vulnerable, and we found out that water is life. So we focus more on water giving. So we are calling also partners to be sustainable, to come up with a deep well facility, and then have also our protection to the environment. So we have this mangrove or tree planting annually, and even not only for photo ops, but we have to take good care by our heart the environment. So what to do next? Values-based adaptive cooperative leadership in addressing climate action, and based on our cooperative pledge, as we said, alone I am weak, but with others I am strong. And thank you, ILO, and congratulations to all co-ops for celebrating here our 100 years. Thank you very much, Vic.
Thank you very much for another great presentation and for keeping to time. We're really doing excellent, so we'll have time for questions. Just to remind you that if you're going to ask questions, I see some of you are putting them in the chat box. At the bottom, there is a specific column for questions and answers. If you can put them in there, it makes it much easier for us to capture them so that when we get to question time, I can ask the panelists to answer. Right, we move on to our last presentation, which is Mustafa Kamal Gear from the ILO Green Jobs Unit, where he's the chief, and who's really got his plate full at the moment with the demands on our time for input into the climate change debate. So Mustafa, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Vic, and dear colleagues, and congratulations on the International Cooperatives Day. It's a pleasure to join in this session. I think we've heard a lot of very good examples from Latin America, the Caribbean, from Europe, and from Asia. So I thought perhaps I would use my time to share a few ideas in terms of work which is somewhat in progress, in terms of how in the ILO we're engaging through the Green Jobs program, working with our cooperatives unit to promote a cooperative approach to addressing a number of environmental sustainability issues in our member states, and to focus on some of the work going on in the Africa region. So I would share three examples which cover three sectors. And the first one is about work we are doing on the waste management. I think Sonia has very much framed all the challenges that informal waste pickers faced in the area of waste management, despite the important public good function that they perform. I would like to talk to you about a name which is very difficult to say. I think for many of you it would be very difficult to say Mbebes, but Mbebes is an open waste dumping site which is located some 30 kilometers northeast the city of Dakar in Senegal. It was established in 1968, and since it has expanded, and as of 2018, it then covered 175 hectares. It is said to be one of the largest, if not the largest, open waste dumping site in West Africa. And every day, over 2,000 tons of garbage are dumped on this site as part of city waste management. Now, for that reason, it is an important source of greenhouse gas emission because of the methane that is being emitted from the site, but it also causes increasingly concerns about underground water pollution because it is seated in one of the areas which is a basis for food production also in the neighboring area. Now, so this is why in a collaboration that the ILO started with Viego, with the members in Africa, COPs and the Green Jobs try to look at the way to support an organization of the informal waste collectors in this area in a form of a cooperative. Now, to do that, we agreed with Viego that what would be important to do in the first step is to get a sense of who are those operating on this site. So therefore, we commissioned a study, and the survey revealed that some over 1,500 people work regularly on this site. But these are those who were found when the survey took place. Other studies that we have seen speak of 4,000 waste collectors that operate in the site. An important part of them, almost a quarter, are women. We find also that from the study that 1 out of 4, both women and female and male waste collectors, are under the age of 30. And there is some prevalence of waste of child labor also in this site. And I should mention that several years ago, almost 20 years ago, the ILO had a program to remove child labor, children working on this waste dumping site, but it seems that it has gone back to business as usual. Now, the study also indicated that many of these waste pickers that are in the site come from different professional background. They just ended up moving into this area, but some used to be craftsmen or craftwomen, others were in commerce, others were agriculture workers, but they found that this business of waste collection is quite profitable. And we find from our field visit that there are people who have been working on this site for generations, from father to third generation. So it's really a critical issue. But also very interestingly, the study we did with Viego indicated that the site is, the informal workers in this site are organizing somehow informal supply chains. Some of them only collect plastic waste, some of them only collect metal, some of them only glass, some of them only wood, food waste, and they are in some informal supply chains. So therefore, we agreed that after having done this stock-taking study in August last year, together with WIEGO and the ILO office, this work country team in Dakar, we organized a workshop, a restitution workshop, where we presented the study with the informal waste collectors, discussed with them the situation, and that's also where we found, we looked at different options to organize better, and looking at the cooperative model. And therefore, we found out of that study that there was a need to better understand the supply chain, the way waste is moving from the city to the dumping site, and from the dumping site back to the city. So therefore, at this moment, we have commissioned a second study, which is trying to understand better these, the supply chains of waste on plastic, on metal, and therefore, hopefully, at the end of this process, we would be able to come up with the workers themselves to see if it works better to organize in one cooperative or different cooperatives following the different waste streams. So this is something which is work in progress, but which in which we're very happy to engage you all and reflect, learn from other regions and how this could be made a successful experience. The other example I wanted to share is an effort that we are undertaking under the Partnership for Action on the Green Economy. This is still in West Africa, in Senegal. And this is an effort which is meant to turn an invasive species called water hyacinth. I think those who are in East Africa are familiar with water hyacinth as also a key challenge in the Lake Victoria. Many governments have done all their best for decades to remove this invasive species, but it has not been successful. So therefore, in the context of Senegal, there is a new effort now to try to turn this water hyacinth, in the local term, it is called Tifa. So to turn Tifa into a modern thermal insulation material, because it is used traditionally to build huts, to build public sites, and it's very efficient in terms of removing heat. And as we know, we are in West Africa, in the Sahel region, where it goes from 440 to 445 degrees, for most of the year, it's very hot. So therefore, the typical type of construction that we have in cities doesn't work. So therefore, in this process, we work with the Ministry of Environment and Sustainable Development of Senegal, and within our page partnership, where we have 5 UN agencies, there is the ILO, UN Environment, UNDP, UNIDO, and UNITAR. UNDP is leading this effort together with the ILO. So therefore, as part of the program, we worked with women who are involved in the collection of Tifa, cutting it through, very informal ways, sometimes with occupational risk, to get them better organized so that they become an important part in the process of modernizing the collection of Tifa and using it as an input into modern forms and material for thermal insulation. So what you see here is a workshop that we run together with women groups. And what you see at the very end of this present, the last picture I'm showing here is what is the final product. So once we turn Tifa into a modern product, and this is being done also with UNDP working with the School of Polytechnics, so that the product is complying with technical specifications. My last example is about an initiative where we're engaging with women in a municipality which also has a difficult name. I think I can say it. It's called Mehe. but for others, maybe difficult to say, the municipality of Mehe. So it's a city where we are engaging with women in building a capacity to manufacture locally some solar kits that are used for solar city lighting, street lighting, but also for cook stoves. So this is a process that started in 2017, where there is a project run by the Ministry of Environment and Sustainable Development of Senegal, which is called PASEF. And PASEF stands for Program to Promote the Creation of Green Jobs. So through the PAGE partnership, we collaborated with PASEF, and we worked with an organization called GIE. GIE it's a French acronym, actually, which stands for Groupement d'Intérêt Économique, but it's a sort of type of cooperative approach. So we work with Palette to help them set up a workshop where training can take place, where they can produce these materials, where they can also have a showroom. And through Palette, there is a partnership also with a group of women known as Emerging Women. And as you know, the current development strategy of Senegal is called Plan Sénégal Émergent, so emerging Senegal. So therefore, there is also this group of women that call themselves Emerging Women to be part of that program of sustainable development. So therefore, what you see here is part of the training that we are doing with PAGE. I want to say also in this process, we're engaging with our partners in the SIYB network, Start and Improve Your Business in Senegal, that are supporting these groupments in terms of defining business management tools and moving forward with their initiatives. These were 3 examples I wanted to share. So they are all work in progress, and we want to get your feedback, suggestions, and very much look forward to collaboration in taking these initiatives forward, learning from experience in other parts of the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mustafa, for that input. So now we've heard all the presentations, and we're going to go to answer some of the questions. Before I start, I'm not sure if you're able to come in and speak, Samel, but seeing that not you, but your unit is 100 years old, it would be good to have a comment from you to answer the one question that's specifically directed at the ILO. Are you able to come in, Samel?
Yes, Vic, I am happy to come in. I think one of the questions that was in the chat was related to the big COOP support development promotion programs, especially I think the question was coming from Africa. Indeed, the COOP Africa project was one of those last grand scheme projects. We may be having less of those multi-country, multi-sectoral projects these days, especially with the pressing issues such as forced displacement, climate change, pandemic response. But at the same time, co-op development programs and wider social and solidarity economy development programs continue. For instance, in Tunisia, there is an ongoing set of ILO-supported development cooperation projects for social and solidarity economy, not only in supporting policy-making process, which actually culminated in the adoption of a social economy legislation late last month, but also in engagement of youth through social and solidarity economy organizations, co-ops, mutuals, social enterprises, to alleviate youth unemployment. And I will stop there. Thank you, Vicky.
Unmute. Thank you very much, Samel. In the questions, Dirk, there's one question that says, I just need to find it now, I had it a moment ago, about the transition process. Let me just get it. Can you answer that one?
The transposition process of the new European directives on energy what might go wrong is that in member states where they don't know actually what it is, that they just put it in a law and that they don't engage in setting up an enabling framework, which is obliged, which they have to do. But if you don't know what it is, then it might go wrong. The other problem that might arise is that actually we get a piece of the cake as citizens, as local actors, and someone loses this piece of cake, which is the big companies, the big energy companies, and we see already that they try to now they say, well, we will service these energy cooperatives, these energy communities. Don't worry, we will service it. So they actually they want to keep the piece of the pie we got. So these are two threats we see that can happen. And of course, we must be vigilant. And if we have the overview of what happens, we can tell the Commission that something goes wrong in a certain country. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much. There's a question on the cooperative payout to you. Let's see, who's this one to? It's to you, Noel. I just want to get the question up in front of me. Put the wrong box here. Dealing with the payout of how long does it take for the cooperative to pay out claims to beneficiaries affected by or after a climate event or other disaster? Could you come in on that one?
I think I answered that already, but based on the experience that we have on our partner co-ops, within 7 working days, and then basically they gave the payment from the proceeds of insurance.
Okay, thank you. Sonia, there was a question, you may have answered it on already, but if you could just mention this, can you share 2 policies implemented in the area of social protection for waste pickers in Brazil? Perhaps you can just mention that and highlight it a bit.
Yes, thanks for the question. The most common measure was the distribution of food baskets across many municipalities in the country. And also there was through the extended producer responsibility program in Brazil, many industries devised special schemes in which they distributed basic income. I can cite one of such scheme from ABPEC, an association of industries from the food and hygiene sector, in which they distributed a cash grant of around $140 to 5,000 waste pickers across 21 states in Brazil. In addition to that, a social movement together with progressive members of parliament managed to approve in our Congress a basic cash grant for workers in the informal economy, including waste pickers. And this is a national basic scheme which entitles registered workers in a given system that we have in Brazil to receive around $140 during 3 months. Yeah, I'll highlight this, and if you want more details, our study that has been launched today has a bit more on that.
Thank you very much. Noel, there's a question here saying, in combination to insurance, are other products also available for managing risks for agriculture-based households? Can you please come in on that?
That's a really good question, because that is what we are going into. We call that one as hybrid. And however, due to lack of some reinsurance partner and maybe doing a lot of research on how we can package it. But as to that product, that basically there are two determination of losses only based on the excess wind speed and rainfall.
Thank you. Mustafa, if you can come in, and there's a question about the scalability of the examples that you've mentioned. Can you talk to that, please?
Yes, indeed. I think scalability is essential in this effort. And I was just responding to indicate that in the case of waste management, what is happening at the moment is that the government of Senegal is turning Bubus into a waste treatment facility, a modern waste treatment facility. And what we're trying to do with our partners, which also includes an organization I didn't mention, which is called UCG, but it's the government entity managing waste management, so that in that effort of modernizing Bubus, they also consider current waste pickers as part of cooperatives, so that they don't be left out in that process. But this is part of a larger program. And same on what I said about TIFA, the government is working on a larger program of solar, of thermal insulation material, which is bigger than what we're doing. Our effort is simply in that process, in the supply chain of TIFA, to help current actors like women groups organize so that they become meaningful actors in that process. But this is part of a larger government program.
Thank you. The next question I'm going to ask to Dirk and to Sonia. Are these projects that we talk about in danger of ignoring the economic effectiveness of the cooperative model in favor of ecological advocacy? Dirk, first to you and then to Sonia.
Well, actually, when we started our federation, we wrote a charter. Who are we? What do we do? And so we included the 7 cooperative principles, but we added some things about the problems we encounter now. So the energy transition, climate change, the depletion of fossil fuels, and so on. So for us, it's a coherent thing. So we think that the cooperative model is the model. We should have a cooperative economy instead of a capitalistic economy. We are very much in favor of cooperatives, and we don't only promote the corporate energy cooperatives, but the cooperative model as a whole. So, for instance, to give you an idea, in Belgium, in Flanders, we brought the traditional cooperative families, which were divided among ideological boundaries. We brought them together for the first time in their history. They're sitting at the same table. So we need to work together across these old divisions. So yeah, now for me it's one coherent thing. Yeah. Is this an answer?
Sorry, Sonia, I had my mic on.
Okay. Can I just add something on the booth first, if I may? Thank you very much, Mustafa, for raising the case of the booth. The global waste management team has been supporting our WIGO local team, and I've been to Babus, many times, and we are very concerned about the process with the project that the government is implementing around the modernization of waste management there. I know that there are some efforts in terms of introducing a livelihood approach. And I really would love the ILO to support us because, and I know you guys are already doing so, but I'm just reinforcing the need to watch out, because most often these processes of closing dumps, they end at a stage in which the finance organization, in this case is the World Bank, drafts a very beautiful livelihood restoration plan, which is seldom implemented, or implemented not to the level that it should. So it's just, you know, a call for, you know, keep working hand in hand with us in this case. Well, so to the question in terms of, you know, threats around the cooperative model, I think for me, especially in this time with this crisis, this pandemic, I'm very worried about many things. One of the things is the increased stigmatization of informal workers. And this affects not only the sector group that I am a specialist in, waste pickers, but informal workers in general. So we have seen the increase of stigmatization of informal workers, street vendors, and we have accounts coming from Lima, from Senegal, and from many parts of the world. And especially for waste pickers, because the activity that they do is already a very kind of stigmatized activity, because it's waste. This is even more of a threat. So it affects, you know, the waste picker cooperatives. The other thing is, and here I speak about my country in particular, with the rise of right-wing governments, extreme right-wing governments, and especially here in my country, what we are seeing in Brazil is the dismantling of all the enabling environment that allowed cooperatives to thrive. Brazil is home of one of the strongest cooperative movements with waste pickers, and all the enabling environment is being destroyed. So I see these times as very troubling times, and to that end, I think we need to join forces and actually campaign for the recognition of waste pickers as essential providers, service providers in waste management and in recycling, and cooperatives as essential service provider organizations.
Thank you very much. Now there's a question to all four of you. I'm going to start with you, Noel, and then to Mustafa, and then Dirk and Sonia in that order. The question is, what do you think is the more important challenge that social solidarity cooperatives face for their sustainability? You just try and keep your answers short, but I'll repeat that. What do you think is the more important challenge that social solidarity cooperatives face for their sustainability? Noel?
Since we are into the insurance, and I think this is the best time that our co-op leaders must join forces together, especially we are in this pandemic, and share also data that maybe come up also on what health products that we can provide, and talking also to resiliency, and at the same time the sustainability of the cooperative movement.
Thank you. Mustafa?
Well, as you know, in Green Jobs, we're not really expert in cooperatives. We are working mostly with our COOP unit, but looking at the environmental sustainability dimension. But from these experiences that we're engaging with, and we work also with our colleague enterprise specialist, Roberto Pez in Dakar, and our page coordinator say in her book. What I think is that the sense of the capacity to organize, because in all these processes I mentioned, we haven't yet reached a stage of having a cooperative that is functional. We're trying to find waste pickers or workers in a situation of informal economy and trying to bring them into the cooperative model. I think for that, we cannot yet talk of sustainability, but maybe learning from how this has been done elsewhere so that it can be sustainable from the beginning of the process. So maybe I'll just comment from that perspective as we work in progress.
While you got the floor, Mustafa, there was one question, and if you could just add on, and then I'll go across to Dirk to answer the first question, is can your program that you've mentioned be replicated in other parts, and what would be the basic condition necessary for that?
Obviously, what we're doing is already replication. So the work we're doing with waste pickers in the Mbabas open dumping site in Senegal also follows some work we've been doing with COOP in Turkey. You know, there was a process in Turkey trying to integrate and help organize informal workers that come from the refugee movement from Syria into Turkey. The government was trying to get them organized into cooperatives. So our effort in Senegal is partly trying to replicate what has been done elsewhere in Latin America. And we think this is replicable elsewhere else. What we think is important is that the actors themselves realize the opportunity and the benefits of going into cooperatives. And this is not obvious, and maybe Simal can comment. In our experience in Turkey, there was a lot of resistance by informal workers to go in the COOP approach. They didn't trust the environment, business environment to do that. So I think the sense of ownership and confidence in the process is something we think to be quite essential.
Thank you. Dirk, on the question of the social solidarity cooperatives face, what challenge they face for their sustainability?
Well, actually, we have a unique chance now in history, since we're switching from centrally produced energy with fossil fuels and nuclear to very decentralized energy production, even on people's own roofs, with solar panels. And this transition gives us, as citizens and groups of citizens, cooperatives, the chance to take ownership. And what does it mean if we own the production facilities of the future? This means that all the money which is now leaving the local economy for buying oil, coal, gas, even uranium, this stays in our country, in our region, in our local economy, but only if we own the wind turbines, the solar panels, and whatever it is. So if the big companies, if foreign investors succeed in taking the ownership of these decentralized production facilities, we won't have taken the chance we are offered now. So that's why we must speed up in Europe, but in Africa, in everywhere in the world, and energy cooperatives can offer this opportunity to citizens, but it is now that we must act. So that's.
Thank you very much. Sonia?
Yes, just adding on to what my colleagues have already said, and particularly around what Mustafa has raised on the challenge in terms of organizing. I think, speaking to that, we need to overcome the difficulty in terms of providing cooperatives with continued capacity building. Very often we have, processes of capacity building that they are not continuous, and this kind of makes the process of first organizing workers under this organization format, and also the problems in which the workers face in such models, which is to find a balance between the social aspect that cooperatives bring with it in terms of solidarity, but also they are service providers, they need to run a business, and this difficulty to balance out these aspects require continued capacity building. So I'll highlight that.
Thank you. So Mel, you want to come in on this one?
Just following up from what Kamal was talking about, it's very important that these organizing efforts among informal economy workers builds bottom up and is based on trust. And trust building requires very much that capacity building, open dialogue, the existence of an ecosystem of institutions, education institutions, good legislation, progressive legislation, supportive legislation, and financing. And in fact, to Dirk, this is one of the questions that was coming as well, Vic, which is, this sounds great. How do you do that? How do you finance this? Like the example in Denmark that you were giving, Dirk. So it's really this setting up this ecosystem of support institutions, good legislation, education that can keep building the building blocks for a movement, for healthy social solidarity. Economy with co-ops, associations, social enterprises, mutuals, and the rest.
Thank you very much. And we're coming to the end of our session, and sorry we won't be able to answer every question, but we need to remind ourselves that the International Cooperatives is celebrated on the first Saturday of every July, as you would have seen in our introductory note that we sent out. And it was first celebrated under the auspices of the UN in 2005. Though its history as a day celebrated by the International Cooperative Movement and the International Cooperative Alliance, ICA, whom we work very closely with, goes back to 1923. And the theme of the 2020 International Day of Cooperatives is, as we've seen, Cooperatives for Climate Action. So it's very relevant, it's very much part of our thinking going forward. But I want to conclude with one or two broad statements in saying that what I've experienced in the last years is that the cooperative movement and social enterprises in general have a huge offering to bring to the table in attaining the Sustainable Development Goals. And what we do when we hold these webinars and seminars is we often talk like in a church. We talk to the converted. So most of you out there who are part of this webinar are very much part of the cooperative movement. And that's great, because we need to have networks, we need to strengthen each other's work, we need to hear of the best practice scenarios. But the challenge also lies at the global agenda. We've got to strengthen the role that the cooperative movement can play in bringing about a far more equitable distribution of wealth, a far better green recovery process, as Mustafa's pointed out. And so the challenge is to take from these good practices that we've learned today to make sure that at the policy and advocacy level, we've got the footprint clearly designated so that we can move from there, that governments have got an enabling regulatory environment, because my experience also in the developing economy is that we have a long way to go to get a regulatory environment in place that is strongly supportive of cooperatives and social enterprises. So there's a lot of work to do. But thank you once again. A big thank you to all our speakers, Sonia, Noel, Dirk, and Mustafa. It's been great having you on the panel. Thank you for all your comments and questions in the chat and the question and answer column. Thank you to Samel and your team for arranging this, to Mina at the back room there with all the technical side of things, and Susan. So thank you very much, and I wish you all a good weekend. Some of you, your weekend's already started. Some of us are still heading towards the weekend. Stay safe and stay well, and I wish you all a goodbye.
Thank you.